Okay, you know what time it is. It's your boy Calabasas Jones. Miss Marvel episode 2, Crushed. And before I even get started, I'm going to say one thing. This show is advanced, so let's jump right in. The positives. There are a lot of positives. The beginning was hilarious. Kamala's a player now. She's walking through the halls, giving dap, chucking up the deuce. That was legit. And it was advanced writing because it showed that before, in episode 1, she walked through, she was kind of like nerdy, quote unquote, not feeling too good about herself. But they knew they were going to do this beforehand, so it was a perfect parallel between that first episode and this one. So just excellent writing. Also, it gave away a key tell as to Kamala's mindset, which comes into play later, but I'll get to that later. When she was relaying what she tried with her powers, she said she couldn't shrink when she was telling Bruno about it. That's funny because in the comics, she can shrink. So it was a callback to the actual comics, for people that know about that. Very welcome. When Bruno pulled out that device that analyzed Kamala's powers, what was that? That was some like Cisco from the Flash type stuff where he would like make up crazy machines that just do anything out of nowhere, but maybe even a little bit more advanced. It was on a Windows tablet and he could like see the energy inside her body flowing into the bracelet. Like, bro, did you write that software? Like, what kind of machine is this? So that was a great laugh, very comic booky. It definitely took me to the Flash with those crazy machines that just come out of nowhere. On powers, they established that they come from her, which is good because that's a nod to her inhuman heritage in the comics where her powers are actually native to her DNA, but they activate with the Terrigen Mist. So in this case, the bracelet kind of functions as the Terrigen Mist. So that's good. I mentioned that, she's an inhuman in my review of episode 1. So they gave a great reference to that. For anyone who knows the comics, they'll understand what's going on. As it progressed, oh man, MIA featuring Timbaland come around, bro. I'm glad they put that song in here. That was heat. And shout out MIA, by the way. Is she underrated? I don't know. She shouldn't be. She's an OG. Go listen to some MIA. You need that. Okay. That mosque scene. All right. That might be one of the most important, powerful scenes in the whole Marvel continuum, and definitely in the shows so far. It was crazy. Like, as we all know, America in general has been kind of on edge around Muslim culture since a certain event 21 years ago. We don't really need to get into it. But yeah, there's just been kind of this uneasiness, quote unquote, about Muslim culture. Marvel was like, forget that. We gonna show it, and you gonna like it. It was such a heartfelt. It was just such a real moment. And the thing about it wasn't like no science experiment, like no documentary, like look at Muslims. No. It was some people at a mosque, a church, just living life, telling jokes. It was like, I'm years old, and I don't know if I've seen too many scenes of Muslim culture just like in a media format, just in general, and certainly, not any that were like just normal, just people living life, and it was self-assured. It was like, we're gonna do this. So, that was high level and greatly appreciated. It was, Marvel, they're on top of it. Shout out Disney too. It was, that was legit. So skipping forward a bit to the crush scene, which is where the episode gets its title. Yeah, that was visionary as well. Like I mentioned in my first review that this show has a lot of parallels to Homecoming. First of all, the cinematography is definitely on a movie level, just like the camera work, the camera clarity. It's some movie type stuff, and it just reminded me of Homecoming, the way it looked. And also, it's a teenage coming of age story. So, I mean, that's basically what Homecoming was about. This scene, it took the parallels even further. It was amazing. Like, it just gave you that teenage experience on such an authentic level. I was watching the episode like, this is like, it was it was an emotionally like stirring moment. It was just like it took you back to those days. It just felt so real. And yeah, and in addition to that, it told the side of Homecoming, the coming of age story from the female point of view versus male Peter Parker, and it did that excellently. The use of purple, you know, very, like I said, feminine. Purple's also the color that represents spiritual enlightenment, by the way. So it was, and that's the thematic elements. Don't even get into like the camera work and the actual visual effects. It was crazy. And they snuck that in there real quick. But that was like, it was one of the more amazing moments I've probably ever seen on media. Like I said, the show is advanced. They're not just recycling things and being like, oh, you know, here it is again. These are like, they're moving forward. Shout out Iman Vellani. This shit can act. Carried that scene effortlessly. And it was just so good. Like it was legit. And again, it just felt real, authentic. And yeah, that moment was it was on point. It was a very strong moment. So when they exit the class, Kamala's friend, she remarks, it was a quick remark too. They spent 6 months on ancient Greece and 6 minutes on Byzantium. That was a genius level comment. It seems like a very slight, I mean, the phrase took like, what, 2 seconds to say, maybe? But they were getting at something, and they snuck that in this episode real quick. Just a little history. Like, the stuff we learned in school, it's very focused on Western culture, and they leave a lot of stuff out about anything that's not Western, specifically anything like Eastern. You don't really hear too much about it. Africa, we start getting like Eastern Europe, the Near East, the Middle East, the Far East. Like, people don't realize stuff has been happening over there for all of history, like real events. But for that matter, Western history / culture isn't even taught really that well, you know. Like, there's a lot of stuff a lot of people just don't know, and it's not in the books. People ain't telling you. That's, you know, that's a whole different story. But as far as like Eastern history, I challenge you to just look up something called Khazaria, okay? Just look that up, Wikipedia. And you're gonna see like, oh, there's been stuff happening, you know, across the world for millennia that people just don't know. And we get this quote unquote Western perspective. Like I said, they even leave a lot of stuff out of Western history, so take that for what it's worth. But just to say that, just to sneak that so subtly into this episode and be like, yo, they're not even bringing up stuff like real events, real people for thousands of years. They're like, you don't need to know that. Nah, my G, like, let's get into that. They just put that in that episode in that 2-second remark, and I'm like, man, these people are really onto something. It was it was some up there type stuff. And, you know, whatever they're cooking up at Marvel, Disney, the point is that was well appreciated, very legit and very poignant. Okay, skipping to the outdoor festival. One of the OGs was singing Body. She was like, body, 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 body by Megan Thee Stallion. Like, as it came into the scene, I was like, did anyone else hear that? I'm from Houston, so obviously I appreciated it. But this show is just so plugged into the culture and just so like current and just so on it that was another moment that's just like, they're just, they know what they're doing with this. Okay, so the saving the boy scene, obviously that was a crucial scene. Thematically, maybe the most, you know, probably the most crucial part of the episode, definitely action-wise. But it wasn't really because of her powers. That was a key part of it, but that wasn't the main part of it. So we got to see her use her powers, which was cool. You know, getting to little platforms and stuff like that. And it showed she probably should have leaned in or to her homie, Bruno, a little bit more, because he was like, yo, you got to train. That's what you need to be out here doing. So they did a little callback to that. But it showed a crucial element in Kamala's mindset. She pretty much had the situation on lock until she started imagining like the Twitter posts and the Instagrams and blah, 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 like girl saves boy, so on and so forth. And that's when she saw the creepy lady and just fell apart. In the beginning, she came into school with confidence, quote unquote, because she had her powers now. She's a superhero. People think I'm cool. Drawing your sense of worth from other people's perceptions or anything outside of your actual self is a recipe for disaster. It'll never work. And in fact, it'll lead, to your own, it can lead to your own downfall. Likely will lead to your own downfall. And they snuck that in there again. So I was like, man, these are real characters. They're not just perfect or this or that. And obviously, in order to grow, she's going to have to get past that. But like, my self-worth comes from my own self. And actually, that's kind of like a parallel with her powers in the bracelet. He's like, the powers come from you. They're not actually the bracelet. It's like channeling them. So the idea of things coming from yourself, they're going to get into that. See, that I'm realizing this right now by talking about it. This show's on some genius type stuff. So in order to progress, she's going to have to learn to draw her self-worth from herself, which obviously I'm sure she will. But just to like put that in the episode and like show that she's a growing character and, put those elements in there, kind of subtle. You have to kind of be watching and pay attention. It's just out there, man. And it's like, I'm excited to see her growth, but to really put that in there so intentionally, just dope. So yeah, the show itself, authentic and progressive, man. The feeling you get from watching it, they just know. They know. And it's moving forward, moving things forward culturally, like, for all of us. So I'm excited for this, and it's good. It's good. Room for improvement. Not much. It's good. The characters are great. The story is really good. The visual effects on fleek. It's good. Like, there are no like blatant plot holes I can see as of yet. It's got those comedic elements, but you have to take those as like comic book E. The rolling Ant-Man head in the first episode, breaking that steel cable, that little device showing her biometrics on his tablet. Like, this is just funny stuff. So I'm glad they put that in there. That's very comic booky. Yeah, they're gonna reveal what comes up, of course. But actual rooms for improvement, not too much, man. It's hitting all the marks very well, as well. Rating, 5 out of 5. This episode gets a 5 out of 5. This is on some like Darth Vader, Obi-Wan type stuff. If he shows up, it's a 5 out of 5. They know what they're doing. This episode gets a 5 out of 5. And not for the action. And not even really for the crush scene, which was, kind of the centerpiece of the episode. And also just an amazing scene. It's for that mosque scene and that outdoor festival scene. Because they showed Muslim people as just regular people. Like, this isn't no like, National Geographic, like, spotlight on Muslim culture. No, this is like just real people living life. And they shamelessly showed it, intentionally showed it. They're like, nah, man, this ain't nothing to be, wake up. Like, these are just real people living life. I don't think I've ever seen a Muslim depiction that was so just normal, just like, real on anything until, a couple days ago when I watched that episode. And they just did it, like I said, fearlessly, just like, this is what it's going to be. So, man, yeah, that's an easy 5 out of 5 just for those two scenes. And then on top of that, they were dope. And that's not even getting to the other elements of like Middle Eastern culture that they brought in throughout the episode. When she passed out, her brother was like, oh, it's the evil eye. Like, look that up if you don't know what that is. But they just kept sneaking them in there. Top tier writing. But that mosque scene and that outdoor festival scene, just showing Muslim people as normal, real people, just living life. 5 out of 5. Easy. Okay, so Miss Marvel, next week, I'm going to be on top of that. Obi-Wan, episode 6, how are they going to wrap this up? How is this going to tie into episode 4, A New Hope, and just have everything go back to the way it is? I don't know. I'm going to tune in and see. Thor, 3 weeks now? Yeah, about like 2.5 weeks, actually. So be ready for that. And that's it. I'm going to catch y'all later. Peace.